Hello, and welcome to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the injury market's top program for doctors, lawyers, and insurers who want to gain greater insight on how to improve patient recovery results and deliver better services in the U.S. injury market. Please welcome your host, Dr. Jeffrey Allen Kronk.
Doctors, today what I want to talk about is impairment rating. Impairment rating gets it to be a confusing thing, and it's not understood, and so doctors get very easily confused because they interact with attorneys that are definitely very confused about impairment rating, and a market that's confused about impairment rating. And one of the biggest things with confusion is it's highly contagious. Confusion is highly contagious. It's a highly contagious malady. All you have to do is get around a confused person and you'll soon see exactly what I'm talking about. You'll get very confused. When you get your information from a confused person, you will get confused information and you will get confused. Okay, so let's just talk about the guides. What is it? What is the guides to the evaluation of permanent impairment? Most attorneys don't know what it is, right? So if I'm talking with an attorney and they say, "Oh, I don't like impairments. I don't like using the impairment guides." Say, "Why not?" "Well, the numbers are, I just don't like the numbers." "Okay, well, what do you know what the impairment guides are?" It's like, "Oh, yeah, they're impairment guidelines." "Okay, well, that's not the answer to the question." "Okay, so do you know what an impairment is?" It's like, "Well, no, doctor, why don't you just tell me?" An impairment is an injury. There is no injury with that. There is no impairment that's not an injury. Not any, not one. Impairments are all injuries, right? So an impairment is an injury. It's defined as a loss. I lost my arm. They amputated my arm. I lost my arm. A loss of use of. Cut the nerve to my arm and I can't use my arm. Loss of use of. Or derangement of any body part. Derangement of any body part. Well, is a herniate disc a derangement of a body part? Yes. Is excessive motion in the spine a derangement of a body part? Yes. Is a fracture in the spine derangement of a body part? Yes. Do they have a section on each one of those? Do each one of those get actually classified as a permanent impairment? Yes, in the AMN guides they do. Okay, so it's a derangement of any body part. If you damage my heart and you damage my heart valve, that derangement of a body part is in the guides under the cardiovascular system, right? If you broke my leg, it's in there, right? Fractures are in there, spinal fractures, knee fracture, and knee derangements, knee injury. Any injury is in these guides. So it's a loss of use of, or derangement of any body part, organ, system. What's an organ system? A system is where you take different parts and they're now in a system. So we say the musculoskeletal system. We say the cardiovascular system. So a vertebra is not in the cardiovascular system. So a derangement of a vertebra is not a derangement of the cardiovascular system. It has no effect on the cardiovascular, essentially. I mean, if you injure something in the body, it has an effect on all the different, but it's not a tissue that's in that system. So it's a loss of use of, or derangement of any body part, organ system, or organ function. Now it says here, because of the scope, depth, and standardized approach and the foundation in science and medical consensus, the guides are used worldwide to estimate adult permanent impairment. So what is an impairment? It's an injury. So they estimate adult permanent injuries. And what do they estimate? They estimate the negative effect it will have on the person's life, called a whole person impairment, whole body impairment. So if you have alteration motion segment integrity, you have a 25%, in the 5th edition, you have a 25% whole person impairment. It means 25% of that person's activities of daily living are going to be negatively influenced. But you have something that's more valuable than that. 1, you have guidance. 2, you have consensus. And 3, you have extreme objectivity. So these guides have said this is a very serious injury. You as an individual doctor are biased and you're looked upon as biased. So what you say doesn't matter. You'd say anything to get your bill paid. You'd say anything to help the patient out. That's how you're looked at, right? So objectivity is what cuts the way that. So basically the other thing that it says here is 2 physicians following the methods of the guide to evaluate the same patient should report similar results and reach similar conclusions. So somebody that says I don't like the guides, they don't like standardization of procedures. They don't like objectivity. But they don't know that they don't like that because they don't know what it is. They don't know what these guides are. So when I explain guides to an attorney, I say, well, look, these should have been called the guides to evaluation of permanent injury, because that's what an impairment is. It's an injury. And what the guides evaluate is the permanency of that injury and the effect it has on the person's life. And it's standardized. It's based on standardized approaches. It has a huge foundation in science and medical consensus. And so it's not me saying it, it's these guides that are explaining it. So if you don't like the guides, what you do like then is subjectivity. And subjectivity in the personal injury market goes like this. This doctor has these credentials. They say this doctor over here has way better, this guy's a chiropractor. This guy over here is a medical doctor who went to Harvard, did part of his work at Yale, served at one of the largest military hospitals, was a head orthopedic surgeon at one of the largest military hospitals in the country, has so many prestigious awards, basically given the medal of, highest medal of medicine in the United States by the president wrapped around his neck. And he says, what you're saying is not true. Who's going to win? That's subjectivity. Objectivity is guidelines. In one of my next podcasts, I'm going to talk about guidelines and how guidelines cut through all the BS. If you have an instructor out there, you have somebody out there that says, I don't think I don't really like guidelines. As far as I'm concerned, you should be able to look in one ear and see out the other, because there's nothing in between. There's nothing that's been more helpful than guidelines. Just most doctors don't know how to use them. So in the guides, it says the physician's role in performing an impairment evaluation is to provide an independent, unbiased assessment of the individual's medical condition, including its effect and function, and identify abilities and limitations to performing activities of daily living as listed in Table 1-2. Performing an evaluation requires considerable medical expertise and judgment. Full and complete reporting provides the best opportunity for physicians to explain the health status and consequence to patients, other medical professionals, and other interested parties, such as claim examiners and attorneys. Thorough documentation of medical findings and their impact will also ensure the reporting is fair, consistent, and the individuals have the information needed to pursue any benefits to which they are entitled. Now, who wouldn't want that? Well, the only person that wouldn't want that is when they don't know what it is. So you have an opportunity when you're working with, so if I'm in the injury space, I'm using impairment rating on every case. If the patient has a permanent condition, I'm giving them an impairment rating. And I'm giving them it because it helps to document so the patient has access to any benefits they may have been entitled to. I'm not a patient advocate. I'm not an insurance advocate. I'm not a defense attorney advocate. I'm an advocate for good medical science, good medical consensus. That's what I'm going to advocate for. And so that's why I use it. Now, I'm going to say another thing. When routine x-rays are normal, severe trauma is absent, motion segment alteration is rare. Thus, flexion extension x-rays are only indicated when the physician suspects motion segment alteration for history and findings on routine x-rays. So what does that mean? Well, that means that in a physical IME, patient gets called out by an insurance company IME, and they go in and they do a physical examination. Guess what? They can't figure out or contest the excessive motion injury in the cervical spine because it can't be picked up in that examination. It can only be picked up in flexion extension x-rays and with an accurate testing procedure. And when you're using an accurate testing procedure, hopefully you're using an unbiased source. That's the easiest way to do it. And that unbiased source is using FDA cleared technology in order to arrive using AMA methodology in order to arrive at these things. And that's not happening. That is not, some of the stuff that's happening in the market is crazy, absolutely crazy. And it hurts everybody. Some of the stuff there's some serious, what I would say is garbage in the market. What I've seen is as far as some of these systems that try to help doctors determine this, and that's unfortunate. So the primary purpose of the guides is to rate impairment to assist adjudicators and others in determining the financial compensation to be awarded to individuals who, as a result of injury or illness, have suffered measurable physical or psychological loss. So that's what it's for. right? So now that's not, I didn't say it's for that. Anybody can look it up. Go to AMA 5th edition, page 379, and you'll see exactly what I just said. So, or go to the thing I just quoted was on page 20 of the AMA 6th edition. So impairment is always an opportunity. Listen, I've been in here, I've been using impairment rating since 1995. I've heard everything there is to hear about it. But it's not going to change me because somebody is confused. I'm not going to be confused. I'm not going to catch their confusion. Now I'm going to attempt to deconfuse them. And it may take me a while to do that, but I'm not going to be confused in the process. Because I understand their confusion is highly contagious. I don't want to catch it. It's ridiculous. The spinal injury market is, in many cases, the blind leading the blind. Now, anybody that can see can lead. Another way of saying it is the confused leading the confused. And anyone that's not confused can lead. So I hear so many providers out there today saying, oh my gosh, this market is a hard market. This environment's so hard. And basically what they're saying is that they are at the effect of their own environment. They can't create it. They can't create their environment. What I'm telling you is if you're not confused, you create your environment. And you deconfuse that environment. And as you do, you become very, very popular at what you do. When I hear the confusion, for me, it's just an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to educate, and that opportunity to educate gives me an opportunity to actually have another person that understands what I do that may be a potential business supplier of business to me. So don't take impairment rating lightly. When I read the impairment guides, the AMA 4th edition in 1995, I thought, my God, as a chiropractor, this is the most pro-chiropractic thing I've ever seen, because they had a spinal subluxation defined as a misalignment or mismovement pattern that causes interference to the nerve. And they had it listed as a 25% whole person impairment. It negatively affects 25% of your activities of daily living, either now or in the future. I was like, my God, the chiropractic, my profession would never validate itself that much. And this is how much it validated the profession of chiropractic. Remember that same finding is now a pre-authorization for spinal surgical findings, and it's something that really good doctors are going to stabilize without the need for that surgery. And I'm talking about really good doctors, but you can't do what you don't know. You can't see what you don't know. You can't be blind and see at the same time. So you have to understand impairment rating. Good. What are the 3 main ways that a spine injures? It fractures, it causes excessive motion, or it causes disc herniation. Those are the 3 main impairments of a spinal impairment rating. So that's why I like this stuff. I like it because it makes my life easier, it makes my documentation easier, and it makes it easier. These things are not hard to understand. If you don't understand them and you're a doctor that's sitting out there listening to me, check out my program. It's called the Smart Injury Doctors Program. We make life simple because I make complicated subjects simple. You could spend years and a lot of money trying to sort through this stuff. We have it all. I have it down to the point where it's hours of education. Not months, not years. You don't need tons and tons of additional certifications and hours of boring stuff that you're listening to. You need stuff that takes what you already understand, makes it more viable and more understandable, and then you need to be able to take it out to use it to help a lot more people. And that's what we do in the Smart Injury Doctors Program. If you have interest in that, call us at 800-940-6513. Or email me, Dr. Kronk at smartinjurydoctors.com. Or just go out to smartinjurydoctors.com and check us out. We also have a Facebook group you can join called the Smart Injury Doctors Spinal Injury Network. And just go out to that network, ask to be involved with it, and there's other educational materials out there. Doctors, as usual, I really appreciate your time, your attention, and I look forward to delivering more information to you on the next podcast.
You've been listening to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the #1 audio production show for professionals in the U.S. injury market that want to deliver better injury services to the patients, clients, or insureds they serve. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review and don't forget to join us on our next program.